Beneath your body, beneath the floor, the bed, the home, the city, there is something older than memory, older than thought. A vastness beneath the crust, layered and churning and slow. Not quiet, not loud, something else. Something deeper. The earth is not still. It never has been. Though we walk its surface with hurried feet and live our lives in the breathless dash of time, the planet turns beneath us in a rhythm far more ancient. A rhythm so slow it seems still until you listen. Not with ears, not with eyes, but with the patience of deep time. All around us, machines of motion hum. Cars pass. Lights blink. Screens glow. But below this surface buzz, beneath the shallow crust of modern life, the earth breathes. Not with lungs, but with plates and plasma, pressure and spin. The crust is thin, a skin stretched tight over mysteries. Underneath, the mantle, thick and warm. Beneath that, a sea of liquid iron, a burning core, spinning. Always spinning. And between these layers, between heat and silence, there are stories being told. Not in words, but in movement, in tremors, in warmth, in the slow, invisible exhale of a living world. Scientists call it geothermal flow, subduction, seismic activity. But tonight you might call it a heartbeat, a whisper, a breath in the dark. There is poetry buried beneath the stone. Not metaphor, but motion, weight, pattern. The kind of poetry that doesn't need language. The kind you can only feel if you're very still. And tonight we are still. For most of human history, we believed the ground beneath us was solid, fixed, dependable, a flat stage upon which everything played out. Even now, we call it terra firma, firm land, as if to assure ourselves that something, anything, can be relied upon to stay in place. But it doesn't. The ground you stand on is a raft, a brittle shell. Beneath it, a river of rock that flows so slowly it feels eternal. But it moves. It always moves. Sometimes with violence, the lurch of an earthquake, the heave of magma. And sometimes with quiet patience, a continent drifting a centimeter each year, an ocean floor widening in silence. This world is not a stage. It is an actor in its own right. The planet is not dead matter. It is dynamic. It is breathing. It is ancient and warm, full of memory, full of change. And the most mysterious thing of all, it listens. Not like a person, not like a god, but perhaps like a system. A being made not of thought, but of interaction. Layers sensing layers. Rocks responding to pressure. The magnetic field reacting to solar winds. Water responding to gravity. Life responding to heat. Something, somewhere, in this complexity is aware. Or at least awake. This is not mysticism. It is observation. It is reverence for scale. It is wonder at the intelligence of design. Not human design, not divine, but the intricate, self-organizing complexity of Earth itself. Every time a fault line shifts, the Earth murmurs. Every time a glacier scrapes its way across a plain, it leaves behind a mark, a sound, a signal. And those sounds, those shifts, are not just noise. They are memory. The Earth remembers, in rock, in fossil, in pressure and depth, everything that has ever touched it. It remembers meteor strikes, volcanic winters, the rise and fall of sea levels, the long, quiet extinction of species. It remembers us. Beneath every building, beneath every monument, beneath every battlefield and burial ground, the Earth holds traces of what was. And still, it continues. Beneath your home, the mantle churns. Beneath your home, the core spins. And beneath your sleep, the Earth waits. Not to awaken, not to punish, but to carry on. The humming of the Earth is not metaphor. Scientists have recorded it. A real low-frequency resonance, a permanent background hum, always present, too deep for human ears. It has been called the seismic hum. No earthquake causes it. No volcano ignites it. It is simply the Earth's song. A vibration born from the movement of oceans, the rolling of tides, the drift of wind across the surface, all funneling their motion down into the deep, where it echoes and echoes. It is a lullaby that has never stopped. Somewhere in the deep night, under layers of time and stone, the Earth sings softly to itself. And tonight, you are invited to listen. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts loosen. Feel the vastness beneath you, not empty, but full. Full of movement, memory, and rhythm. There is no need to understand all of it. The crust, the mantle, the core. They are not puzzles to solve, but mysteries to rest within. You are not separate from this world. You are made of its minerals, its dust, its water. You are a surface ripple of something much older. So sleep not above the earth, but within it, held by it, heard by it. Because beneath the crust, something is listening. There is a kind of music only the earth can make, a song of pressure, a chorus of stone. And though we cannot hear it with our ears, it moves through the crust like a whisper in cathedral walls. Seismic waves, born from rupture, forged in fault lines, are the voice of the underground. They ripple outward from the center of disturbance, echoing through miles of layered rock. Like a bell struck by unseen hands, the earth vibrates. Scientists call it seismology. But listen closely, and it feels like something more, a message, a murmur, a signal from below. The earth, it turns out, speaks fluently in vibration. Every earthquake, large or small, sends a pulse through the planet. Some are shallow and sharp. Others come from deep within, from the shifting of slabs miles below the crust. These pulses, when recorded by sensitive instruments, reveal something extraordinary. They do not just tell us when or where the earth has moved. They reveal the earth itself, its shape, its density, its hidden architecture. The way a violin string quivers tells you about its tension, its length, its wood. So too does a seismic wave tell us about the world it moves through. There are two main kinds of seismic waves, P waves and S waves. The P wave comes first, fast, compressive, subtle. The S wave follows, slower, shearing, deeper. And as these waves travel through the body of the planet, they bend and scatter. They speed up or slow down, reflect or disappear, depending on what they encounter: solid rock, liquid iron, old fractures, or new ones. To geophysicists, this is a language. A fluent, patient language written not in words, but in waveforms. They map the Earth's interior not by digging, but by listening. Not by breaking the stone, but by interpreting its echoes. Imagine, an earthquake in Indonesia sends tremors rippling through the planet. Hours later, those waves pass beneath your feet, not as destruction, but as information. The earth has spoken, and we are learning to translate. Ancient cultures, too, listened, but differently. The Greeks believed earthquakes were caused by Poseidon, the earth shaker, striking the ocean floor with his trident. In Japan, it was the great Namazu, a giant catfish beneath the islands, thrashing its tail. In Mesoamerica, the trembling ground was the breath of the gods. In Norse myth, it was Loki's writhing chains, buried beneath the crust. Each culture reached into mystery and found meaning. And though our instruments today are digital, mathematical, cold, the search is the same. What does it mean when the earth moves? What is it telling us? Not just about danger, but about design. About the structure of the invisible. About the memory stored in silence. When seismic waves pass through the Earth's core, something remarkable happens. Some vanish, others bend. This tells us that the outer core is liquid, the inner core solid. Not because we've touched it, but because we've listened to its resistance. To know the shape of something you cannot see, cannot hold, cannot even imagine, that is the gift of seismic sound. The earth under pressure reveals itself. It is like placing your ear against the trunk of a tree and hearing the wind pass through its rings. Or laying your hand against the wall of a cathedral and feeling the echo of a forgotten song. Every tremor, every quake, is a reminder. This planet is not a stage, but a participant. And we, so small upon its surface, are not separate from this orchestra. We are instruments too. Our cities, our machines, even our breath, they send signals back into the crust. Vibrations rise and fall, and the earth receives them all. You may wonder, does it care? Is the earth merely reacting, or is it aware? This is not a question of consciousness in the way we understand it. It is a question of responsiveness, of coherence. The earth changes in response to pressure. It adjusts, it evolves, it remembers. And perhaps, in the slow drift of continents, in the periodic rising of mountains and sinking of valleys, we are watching a form of cognition. Not intelligence, not thought, but something like attention, a long, slow noticing. What we send into the earth returns to us, shaped, softened, delayed. Like an echo in a stone hall, waiting for those with ears to hear. So tonight, as you rest, know that beneath you, the stone is not silent. It is listening. And when it speaks in waves. Waves that ripple through the dark. Waves that remember every footstep. waves that reveal, even now, the shape of a world you have never seen. Imagine a heart beating, not in flesh, but in iron. A center that never pauses, never slumbers, never forgets. At the very bottom of the world, beneath the crust, the mantle, the layers of drifting stone and ocean, there is something that spins. Something ancient. Something molten. The earth has a core, and that core is awake. No one has ever seen it. No drill has reached it. No satellite has mapped it directly. Yet we know it is there, like we know the sun by its light, or the wind by its song. Roughly 1,800 miles beneath your feet, the outer core begins. It is a sea of molten metal, mostly iron, with hints of nickel and trace elements. Hotter than the surface of the sun, yet under such pressure it flows like water. This ocean of fire encircles something even stranger, the solid inner core. A sphere of crystalline iron, suspended in liquid, impossibly dense and impossibly quiet. Together, they form the Earth's engine. Its silent turbine. Its internal song. The outer core moves constantly. It swirls, churns, spirals. And in that movement, it creates something miraculous, the magnetic field. This invisible cloak protects all life. It deflects solar winds, redirects radiation, guards the atmosphere. Without it, the Earth would be sterile. The oceans would boil away. The air would vanish into the void. And this field, this planetary shield, comes not from the stars or the skies, but from within, from the core, the spinning, molten core. Scientists call it the dynamo effect, a process by which the motion of conductive fluid generates a magnetic field. It's physics, it's math, but it also feels like something more, a pulse, a rhythm, a song of protection. Because while our eyes look outward, to stars and planets and galaxies, it is easy to forget that life depends not only on what surrounds us, but on what lies beneath. The magnetic field changes constantly. It pulses. It shifts. It even reverses, slowly, unpredictably, every few 100,000 years. And when it flips, the compass spins, the poles wander, the sky glows with auroras in places they shouldn't be. And still, life goes on. Because the field does not fail. The core does not sleep. There is a poetic symmetry here. At the center of our world is a presence we can never reach, but which touches every part of our lives. It turns without our knowing, and yet we owe it everything. We navigate by it. We are shielded by it. Migratory birds follow its lines. Ancient sailors read it in the stars. And even our modern electronics, our satellites, our signals, depend on its invisible strength. But what turns the core? What keeps it moving? Some say it's the leftover heat from Earth's violent birth, the collisions of planetesimals, and the slow settling of gravity. Others say it's the radioactive decay of elements like uranium and thorium. The truth is, it may be both, or something more. But the result is certain, perpetual motion in the deep. The inner core, though solid, spins too. In fact, it may spin slightly faster than the Earth itself, a phenomenon called superrotation. Imagine that, a hidden sphere deep inside the planet, moving independently. Slowly, steadily, like the tick of a cosmic clock. Some scientists think the inner core has zones, structures, even layers of its own. It may be growing. It may be changing. It is a world within a world. And while we cannot see it, we feel its presence every day. In the way compasses point north, in the way solar flares do not scorch our skin, in the quiet magnetic shield that envelopes us like a sleeping body under a weighted blanket. The Earth has a heartbeat. You just have to know how to listen. And isn't it strange that the most vital part of our world is also the most inaccessible? That what matters most is what we cannot touch, cannot visit, cannot even truly know. Perhaps the core is not just the engine. Perhaps it is the memory. Formed first, it carries the oldest record of Earth's beginning, of fire and collision and coalescence. It holds the blueprint of the planet's birth, frozen in iron, protected by heat. In some ways, it is like the subconscious, invisible, essential, ancient, always turning beneath the surface. We are surface creatures, drawn to light and sky. But inside us, in our blood, our bones, our electrochemical fields, we respond to the same forces. We align with magnetism. We resonate with the hum of the earth. We are more connected to the core than we realize. And if we are quiet, truly quiet, we may hear it. Not a sound, but as sensation, as the pull of gravity, the drift of a compass, the warmth of a planet that remembers. So tonight, beneath your rest, beneath your dreams, the core turns. Not in chaos, but in rhythm. A rhythm without language. A rhythm without end. The earth is not asleep. The world forgets quickly. Winds erase footprints. Rivers smooth the edges of stone. Forests reclaim ruins. And yet, somewhere beneath the surface, nothing is ever truly lost. Beneath the crust, the earth writes in silence. Not with letters, not with words, but with pressure, temperature, and time. Each mineral is a sentence. Each crystal, a phrase. Together, they form the long, slow language of geology, a language without voice and yet full of memory. The earth, it turns out, is a keeper of records. Rocks, to the hurried eye, may seem still, lifeless, silent. But to those who know how to look, they are storytellers. There is memory inside stone. Not the kind we recognize as human, but memory all the same. When lava cools, it remembers the magnetic field of the earth at that exact moment. Tiny grains of iron align like compass needles, frozen in place. Even millions of years later, they point to the field as it was, not as it is. These are called paleomagnetic signatures, ancient alignments embedded in rock. They allow scientists to reconstruct the shifting of the poles, the wanderings of continents, the breathing pattern of the core. It is as if the earth leaves breadcrumbs for those willing to follow. Every layer of sediment tells a story, of flooding, of drought, of volcanic ash drifting through the sky. Each stratum is a page, pressed beneath the weight of time. Within these layers lie the fingerprints of extinction events, meteor impacts, the rise and fall of oxygen in the air. There are stones that tell of mass death, a thin black line, rich with iridium, marking the day the dinosaurs vanished. There are clays that hold pollen from forgotten forests. There are crystals that formed under pressures so great they could only have come from mountains that no longer exist. Every atom knows where it has been. Some minerals form only under exact conditions, the presence of water, a precise balance of elements, a narrow band of heat. To find them is to know what the world once was, in that place, in that time. To read the rocks is to read the biography of a planet. Zircon, for instance, is one of the oldest minerals on Earth. Some grains date back over 4 billion years, nearly to the planet's formation. Inside those grains are hints of liquid water, which means, before there were oceans, before there were mountains, before there was even a moon the way we know it, Earth already knew the feeling of rain. How many lifetimes have passed across the surface since then? How many species risen and fallen, their names now dust, their stories forgotten? And still, the minerals remember. We may think of memory as fragile, easily lost, easily rewritten. But the earth remembers differently. Its memories are not soft. They are carved into lattice, imprinted in pressure, locked beneath mountains. Where we write diaries, the earth folds mountains. Where we take photographs, the earth layers sediment. Where we forget, it endures. Even in the smallest places, a crystal in a pocket of granite, a speck of magnetite in cooled basalt, there are records no eye can see, but which remain. With instruments, with patience, with reverence, scientists have learned to read this stone script. They grind, polish, examine under microscopes. They send samples to laboratories that analyze atomic alignments, isotopic ratios, rare element compositions. And slowly, from these measurements, a story emerges. Not one of hours or days, but of eons. The formation of supercontinents. The opening of ocean basins. The great oxygenation of the atmosphere. The Earth has lived many lives. The continents we know today were once scattered fragments. At other times, they were fused into a single landmass, Pangaea, Rodinia, Gondwana. Each time they broke, each time they reformed, the rocks beneath recorded the music of their motion. We do not live on a static world. We live on a palimpsest, a layered record, always changing, never erased. And though we may feel distant from the minerals below, we are made of them. Our bones echo with calcium torn from ancient seas. Our blood carries iron forged in Earth's depths. In every cell, in every breath, we are carrying the memory of stone. So tonight, as you lie still, remember, stillness is not emptiness. It is presence. It is listening. And beneath you, Even now, the minerals are remembering. They do not hurry. They do not forget. They endure. And in their silence, they carry the story of everything. At night, when you sleep, your mind drifts. Thoughts dissolve, reality bends, and somewhere in the quiet, the body dreams. And while you rest, beneath your bed, beneath the floor, beneath the forests and rivers and stone, the earth too begins to move. It does not move quickly. It does not move loudly. But it moves. And in that movement, it dreams. Not in pictures, not in symbols, but in collisions and fractures, in rising ranges and sinking seafloors, in the slow dance of continents over the breath of deep time. The crust of the earth, the world we know, the land we claim, the ground we build upon, is not fixed. It is broken into massive plates, drifting atop the soft mantle below. These plates are ancient rafts, floating on a restless sea of rock. And over millions of years, they move. An inch a year. A continent's width across eons. Africa nudges northward. Australia slides east. The Americas stretch and twist. They crash. They buckle. They pull apart. Mountains are born in these collisions. Oceans form in their absence. This is plate tectonics, the secret breath of the world. And it is not chaos. It is choreography, subduction, uplift, rift, transform. The words are geological, but their essence is poetic. One plate dives beneath another, drawn into the mantle where heat and pressure recycle it. Elsewhere, molten rock rises, splitting a continent in two. Rocks bend, crust fractures, new land is born. The Himalayas, the tallest mountains on Earth, are the result of such a dream. India, drifting northward, colliding with Asia, pushing stones skyward. A motion that began tens of millions of years ago and still continues. And it is not just land that moves. The seafloor grows and dies in silence. At mid-ocean ridges, magma rises, hardens, and spreads. At trenches, the oceanic plates plunge back into the earth, returning to the cycle. It is a living loop, a breathing system. These tectonic motions do not simply reshape geography, they reshape life. When continents converge, ecosystems change. Climates shift. Rain shadows form. Rivers reroute. When land pulls apart, species are isolated, and evolution begins to wander down new, divergent paths. The world we know, the placement of forests, deserts, mountains, oceans, all has been sculpted by this dreaming earth. And when the dreams become violent, life changes in an instant. Tectonic activity can trigger volcanic winters, supereruptions, earthquakes that reshape coastlines. Some of Earth's great extinctions were not caused by comets or cosmic events, but by the slow violence of the mantle, flood basalts covering entire regions in lava, releasing gases that poisoned air and sea. Life is fragile on a dreaming world, but life is also born of it. Hydrothermal vents at tectonic boundaries, deep beneath the ocean, may be where life itself began. In the darkness, where heat and minerals rise, complex chemistry unfolded. Not under sunlight, not in shallow seas, but in the cracks of the crust, where the planet breathes fire. In these places, tectonics is not just a force of destruction. It is a force of genesis. The planet builds as it breaks, and it dreams as it turns. We often think of dreaming as passive, as soft, as unreal. But here, beneath the earth, the dreams are made of stone. They are slow, but they are not weak. Imagine continents not as fixed, but as thoughts, drifting, colliding, reforming. Imagine oceans as memories, deepening and evaporating. Imagine the earth not sleeping, but dreaming itself into new shapes. This motion is ancient. There were times long before us when the land was one, a supercontinent called Pangaea. Before that, Rodinia. Before that, even more ancient unions of crust. And each time the land gathers, life mingles. Each time it breaks, life scatters. Tectonics is the architect of life's diversity, the hand that draws the borders of biology. It is not simply geology. It is rhythm. It is intention. So tonight, as you rest, the earth does not lie still. Beneath your quiet breath, it dreams in stone. A centimeter here, a fracture there. An ocean widens in the dark. A mountain begins to rise. And though we will never see these motions in real time, they shape the world we leave behind. Our cities are built on plates that move. Our coastlines drift. Our histories, our cultures, our migrations, all float on slabs of crust with minds of their own. To live on Earth is to live upon a dream. Not a fantasy, but a real, restless dream. Made of fire, guided by gravity, whispered in heat. And beneath the crust, the planet turns in sleep. Its dreams are long. Its stories are slow. But they are shaping you, even now. Let yourself drift with it. Feel the slow rhythm of the tectonic breath. And know the Earth is dreaming beneath you. And it is not yet done. The warmth you feel on your skin each morning, the sun's gentle touch, is not the only heat that sustains you. Beneath the surface, far from light, far from sound, the Earth is warm. Not on the surface alone, not from sunlight, but from within. The heat beneath your feet is older than language. It is older than breath. It is the afterglow of a birth no one witnessed. The Earth was born in fire, a storm of collisions, compression, and chaos. And some of that heat, the heat of becoming, has never left. Even now, billions of years later, the planet continues to radiate its slow exhale. A constant murmur, a thermal memory. This internal warmth, geothermal energy, is not a flame but a whisper. It rises through rock and water, through vents and cracks, always moving, always searching for release. Some of it comes from radioactive decay. Deep within the mantle, atoms split and scatter, releasing heat as they go. Uranium, thorium, potassium, ancient elements shedding energy in their slow unraveling. And the Earth listens. It receives that warmth and carries it upward, patiently. You cannot see this heat, but it's there, beneath every step, in every mine, every cave, every deep well. In some places, it reveals itself. Hot springs bubble with mineral-laced steam, their warmth a gift from the mantle. Geysers erupt on a rhythm older than the clock. Volcanic islands rise, alive with fire born from molten seams below. Even the ocean floor, far from light and air, is stitched with cracks, hydrothermal vents that spill black water hot enough to melt metal. And near these vents, against every expectation, life thrives. Not life that feeds on sunlight, but life that feeds on heat. Bacteria, worms, entire ecosystems, born not in the sun's gaze, but in the Earth's breath. In these dark oceans, the Earth is apparent. Its warmth, a silent lullaby. You might wonder how much heat rises from below. The answer is enough. Enough to keep the mantle moving. Enough to shape continents. Enough to sustain entire systems of life we once thought impossible. The planet emits roughly 44 terawatts of heat, an invisible energy field that pulses upward through its crust. We barely notice. But the Earth never stops exhaling. And it isn't just nature that listens to this warmth. Humans do too. For thousands of years, people have bathed in geothermal pools, believing them sacred, healing. Today, entire cities are powered by heat drawn from the deep. Iceland, for instance, rides the seam between tectonic plates, and with it, an abundance of subterranean warmth. Geothermal energy heats homes, powers industries, lights the dark. Here, humanity listens closely to the planet's murmur and finds sustenance in it. But beyond the numbers, beyond the science, there is something more. A feeling, a reverence. For all our machines and measurements, we cannot create heat like this, heat that lasts for billions of years. This warmth is time itself, radiating outward. A long memory of fire, carried through stone. And like all things the Earth does, it happens slowly, patiently, purposefully. It's easy to forget this when the world above is loud, when engines roar and cities flicker. But in quiet moments, when the world stills, you may sense it, a warmth that doesn't come from sun or sky, but from below. A hum beneath silence, a comfort beneath consciousness. Perhaps this is what the Earth gives us most, not just a place to stand, but a place to rest. A warmth that asks for nothing, that never speaks aloud, that simply waits beneath us, always present. So tonight, as you settle into sleep, remember the heat beneath your feet. It is not a fire to fear. It is a breath to trust. The Earth is warm inside, and that warmth is listening. There are places too deep for drills, places sound cannot reach, places darkness is complete. And yet, we see them, not with eyes, not with cameras, but with particles that pass through mountains like moonlight through mist. The deeper we go into the Earth, the stranger our tools become. To hear the stories hidden in stone, we must listen with something more delicate than sound, more subtle than pressure. We must listen with light that is not light, particles that carry no charge, that move with no weight, that leave no trail, except in the rarest, most miraculous collisions. Neutrinos, muons, ghosts of matter, messengers of the deep. These particles are everywhere, raining down from the cosmos, flowing up from nuclear reactions in the Earth's core, slipping through our bodies by the trillions each second. We cannot feel them, but they are there, passing through bone, through rock, through entire planets, mostly unnoticed, like dreams. And yet, when one of these ghostly particles does interact, when it finally touches something, it leaves behind a trace. A flicker of blue, a whisper of light, and we see it. In giant tanks of ultra-pure water buried beneath mountains. In vast caverns, shielded from the noise of the world. These are the listening chambers, the silent cathedrals of physics. There, scientists wait for a single flash, a signature of something unseen, moving through the earth like thought. Why go to such lengths? Why build such delicate ears to hear what cannot be heard? Because the deeper we look, the more invisible things become. At great depths, rock is too thick for drills. Sound bends and scatters. Heat warps readings. But particles? They do not care about stone or silence. They pass through with ease. Muon tomography uses cosmic particles to map the density of rock. It can reveal hidden chambers inside volcanoes or secret voids inside pyramids. It is X-ray vision, scaled up to the planet. Neutrino detectors, meanwhile, tell us about the heart of stars and the slow fission deep inside the Earth. They offer a glimpse into the nuclear breath of our world, the decay that warms the mantle, drives tectonics, and keeps the core alive. These instruments are not ears or eyes. They are something else entirely. Extensions of curiosity, tools of wonder. They prove that to truly know the Earth, we must build new senses we never evolved but always needed. And in doing so, we find something unexpected, that the deepest truths are not loud. They are subtle. They shimmer briefly in darkness. They pass through unnoticed, until we are quiet enough to catch them. It takes patience to hear with particles, years of waiting, hours of silence, days with no signal. But when something does appear, it rewrites what we thought was possible. A flicker of a supernova, a burst of heat from beneath the mantle, a confirmation of theories once thought too strange to be true. And here, in this stillness, science becomes something like prayer, not in belief, but in reverence, in the willingness to sit with mystery, to build an instrument delicate enough to hear the unheard, to tune our machines and our minds to the quietest of messages. We used to think that darkness was ignorance, that the unknown was emptiness. But now we know better. Darkness is information waiting to be revealed. The Earth is full of messages, not hidden, but simply quiet. And to hear them, we must learn to become quiet too. Our greatest discoveries do not come from conquering the world. They come from learning to listen, to see what sound cannot say, to feel what stone will not speak, and to use light not to illuminate, but to understand. So tonight, as you rest, imagine a particle passing through you, a messenger from the stars, a whisper from the center of the Earth, unnoticed, unharmed, but not unimportant. The Earth is full of such whispers. And somewhere, in a chamber of silence, someone is listening. There are places beneath the Earth where silence grows old, where the air does not move unless the planet exhales, where light has never lived, and time is not counted in hours but in drops. These are the caves, the lungs of stone, the hollow voices of the Earth. When you enter a cave, the first thing you feel is not darkness. It is stillness, a stillness so complete it hums in your ears, so deep it presses gently on your chest, as if the planet is listening back. And perhaps it is. Caves are not voids. They are stories told in negative space, absences carved by time, water, fire, and pressure. Each one is a sentence in the Earth's long, slow autobiography. Some are born from rain, acidic water dissolving limestone, drop by drop, century by century. Others are remnants of fire, lava tubes formed when molten rivers cooled on the outside but kept flowing within. Some stretch for miles. Others are tight as whispers, but all are shaped by patience. To enter a cave is to descend into memory. Not human memory, deeper, older. The memory of water paths, the memory of collapses, the memory of silence. Inside, stalactites reach downward like stone icicles. Stalagmites rise to meet them like forgotten teeth. Together, they are mid-sentence, still growing, still reaching. In some caves, the air is ancient. Sealed chambers hold pockets of atmosphere untouched for hundreds of thousands of years, air from a time when mammoths walked the earth. In others, the sound of your breath bounces and folds in impossible ways, reshaped by contours honed before language. The acoustics of caves are unique because they are accidental, not designed, not engineered, just evolved, as if the planet learned to listen by folding in on itself. Even the creatures who dwell here adapt in silence. Blind fish, colorless insects, bats that speak in echoes. Life survives in caves not by growing louder, but by growing more sensitive. Every flutter, every drip, every footfall means something. And we, visitors in this stillness, must learn to move gently. For thousands of years, caves have been sacred, not for what they contain, but for how they feel. Humans painted on their walls not just to record, but to echo, to leave a mark in a place where the world had stopped shouting. The oldest known art we've found, handprints, animals, symbols, is in caves. Not in temples, not in cities, but here, in the lungs of the earth. Because here, something listens. Scientists study caves to learn about past climates. The chemical layers of stalagmites contain records of rainfall, drought, and dust, silent diaries of the sky written in stone. Some caves act as barometers, breathing in and out as atmospheric pressure changes. Others drip with minerals that carry secrets from deeper strata. In a way, every cave is an oracle, a sensor, an archive, a voice. And yet, caves do not speak in words. They speak in geometry, in humidity, in vibration. They do not demand your attention. They invite your stillness. They remind us that emptiness is not absence, that silence is not void, but fullness. Waiting. There is a reason people meditate in caves. Why prophets fled to them. Why dreams echo louder in their stillness. Caves are not only under us, they are within us. The human skull is a cave. Our lungs, our ears, our minds. All shaped by absence, by chambers and echoes. Perhaps this is why we feel something when we enter one. A recognition. An ancestral exhale. Because we too are hollow voices. Made to breathe. Made to echo. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine the cool stillness of a cave. Not cold, but calm. Not empty, but waiting. A world where silence speaks. Where water carves time. Where the earth hums to itself in stone. And remember, not all voices are loud. Some, the oldest ones, speak only in hush. The earth is always speaking. Not in words, not in language, but in waves. Endless, patient waves. Every moment, the crust of the planet shivers. Not always violently, not always with damage. Sometimes with a whisper. These are seismic waves, born from stress, from fracture, from flow. They are the Earth's voice when it groans, when it stretches, when it breathes. And it breathes often. Beneath our feet, tectonic plates drift like slow rafts on a molten sea. Their motion is steady but uncertain, pushed by convection, pulled by gravity. Sometimes they slide past each other in peace. But sometimes they catch. They strain. They wait. And then, in a moment, they slip. An earthquake is not an explosion. It is a sudden freedom, the release of energy that has been stored in stone for years, decades, even centuries. When it happens, the crust sends out waves. Some travel fast and direct, P waves. Primary, compressional, like a knock on a door. Others follow, slower, S waves. Shearing, twisting, shaking. And after that, waves ripple along the surface, rolling like water. These are the waves we feel, the waves we fear. But not all seismic waves come from catastrophe. Some are background murmurs, microquakes too small to notice, subtle movements in the deep. The planet adjusting its posture. Even the oceans play their part. Waves crashing on distant shores send tremors through the sea floor. Glaciers calving, volcanoes shifting, rivers flooding. All of these send vibrations into the bones of the earth. The result is a never-ending song. A seismic choir, low and long. A planetary hum. We cannot hear it with our ears. But with the right instruments, the earth becomes music. Seismometers, planted like listening posts across continents, pick up the rhythm. Each vibration etched into data. Each shift translated into waveform. It looks like music on paper. It acts like music in math. And in a way, it is. Each earthquake, each tremor, is a note. Each fault line, an instrument. Seismologists read these vibrations like composers studying a score. They learn the patterns. They hear the harmonies of rock and pressure. They sense the dissonance before a quake, the stillness that speaks of something waiting. And beyond prediction, there is revelation. The waves from earthquakes travel differently, depending on what they pass through. Soft rock slows them. Dense layers bend them. Liquid cores absorb and reflect. By studying this, we map the inside of the Earth, not with drills or cameras, but with echoes. This is how we discovered the liquid outer core, how we traced mantle plumes, how we listen for magma before it rises. The planet tells us what it is made of. We only had to learn how to hear it. In Japan, Chile, California, and New Zealand, the Earth sings louder, more often. But even in the quietest places, it never falls silent. The ground is always moving, always murmuring. And perhaps that's comforting, because silence would mean stillness, and stillness means death. The seismic choir is not a threat. It is a sign of life, of motion, of continuity. Even in destruction, there is honesty. When buildings fall, it is not the Earth being cruel. It is the Earth being itself. And us, forgetting to listen. So we build differently now. We anchor to bedrock. We absorb the waves. We design for dance instead of denial. Because we cannot silence the Earth. We can only learn its rhythm. And in that rhythm, we find wonder. Tectonics have shaped every mountain, every valley. They formed the continents. They made the oceans. They lit the volcanoes whose ash feeds soil. Without the shifting of plates, we would have no atmosphere, no life. Just a silent, static sphere. The tremble beneath us is not an accident. It is the pulse of a living world. So tonight, as you drift into rest, let your thoughts settle like silt. Imagine the gentle quake of continents, not violent, but breathing. The Earth is not still, and it was never meant to be. It is singing, always, whether we are awake to hear it, or asleep, dreaming in time with its music. Beneath the crust, beneath the mantle, beneath all that moves and shifts and shivers, lies the core. It is not a place we can go, not even in imagination. It is too deep, too fierce, too quiet in its burning. And yet, it burns. Still, the Earth's core, both liquid and solid, is a paradox. By every law of thermodynamics, it should have cooled by now. The fires at the heart of our planet should have dimmed. And yet, they haven't. The outer core churns, a sea of molten iron and nickel, 2,200 kilometers thick. It flows like a tide trapped in metal. It spins faster than the crust above it. And inside that, like a seed inside a flame, the inner core, a solid sphere, dense and hot, nearly the size of the moon, pressed into being by unimaginable pressure, glowing with heat that rivals the surface of the sun. And no one fully understands why it's still alive. Some say it's the leftover heat of formation, the afterglow of ancient collisions, the memory of a violent birth. Others point to radioactive decay deep within, feeding the fire, a quiet furnace of isotopes keeping time in particles. Still others look to crystallization. As the liquid outer core freezes into the inner core, it releases latent heat, a final breath of warmth as iron becomes ice in the deepest dark. And yet, it is not enough. The models disagree. The equations stutter. We know that something down there is turning, that it creates the magnetic field that wraps us in safety. We know that without this dynamo, solar winds would strip our atmosphere bare. We would be a quiet rock, like Mars. Cold, still, forgotten. So we listen. We infer. We study waves from earthquakes, the only messengers that reach the core and return with stories. And what they tell us is strange. The inner core is not uniform. It may spin separately from the rest of the Earth, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. There are signs of layers within the core itself. An inner core, crystalline, misaligned, ancient beyond comprehension. It's as if the planet has a memory folded in metal. Some scientists believe the inner core is only 1 billion years old, that for much of Earth's life, the center was fully molten. If true, that means something changed. Something unexpected began to crystallize, like a thought forming in a long-forgotten mind. And still, the question remains, why is it hot? Why is it turning? Why has it not gone still? Perhaps the answer lies not in physics, but in poetry. Perhaps the core burns not just with heat, but with purpose. It is easy to think of the Earth as quiet, passive, a backdrop for our stories. But the core reminds us otherwise. It reminds us that the planet is a machine, a body, a breath. The magnetic field it generates shields us from radiation, guides migrating animals, protects our oceans, holds the atmosphere in its gentle grasp. And when the field shifts, as it sometimes does, the compass trembles. The auroras dance further south. The Earth shows us it is still becoming. Because deep below, the core moves. In myths, the underworld is where the dead reside. But here, beneath our feet, the underworld is not death. It is motion. It is temperature. It is continuity. If the core were to stop, if the field were to fade, the skies would open. The planet would quiet. And the pulse we never notice would vanish. And yet, tonight, that pulse continues. As you sleep, the iron sea swirls. The solid core spins, unseen but certain. A fire no one stoked. A wheel no one built. A secret no one solved. The core that shouldn't be, still is. And as long as it is, we have gravity. We have warmth. We have shelter beneath a veil of magnetism. So rest now. Breathe slowly. The world beneath you is not silent. It is ancient, awake, and listening. The warmth we feel from the sun is easy to love. It greets us in the morning, paints our skies, kisses our skin. It is light and life and rhythm. But there is another warmth. One that does not rise. One that does not shine. It lives beneath, a heat that has never seen the surface. A buried flame, forgotten but never gone. This is the internal heat of Earth. Ancient, enduring, and, in many ways, more mysterious than sunlight itself. It is not one heat, but many, a confluence of fire and friction, of radioactive time and planetary birth. The first source is primordial, the heat of formation. 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was born in violence, molten, chaotic, colliding with other worlds. Each impact compressed matter into heat. Each fusion left a thermal scar. Some of that heat still lingers, trapped like breath in stone, a memory of the planet's first moments, still warming the present. The second source is radioactive decay. Elements like uranium, thorium, and potassium, 40, invisible, unstable, and ancient, break down slowly, releasing energy as they go. These atoms act like tiny clocks, ticking away in silence, heating the deep earth grain by grain, century by century. We do not feel it on our skin, but we feel its consequences, tectonic plates that shift, magma that rises, mountains that grow. The third heat is mechanical, frictional, the rubbing of rock against rock, the kneading of the mantle, the folding of faults. It is the warmth of struggle, the glow of movement, the quiet fire that comes not from radiation, but from pressure relieved and tension transformed. Together, these forces keep the planet alive. They melt rock into lava, bend continents like paper, and stir the iron seas of the outer core. They are the reason volcanoes still erupt, why the seafloor spreads, why earthquakes roll through cities. And yet, this heat is declining. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the Earth is cooling. In billions of years, it will fall silent. No more quakes, no more plumes, no more fire beneath the crust. It will become like the moon, geologically dead. Still, gray. But that time is not now. Now, the planet still breathes heat from below. Even in the quietest desert, even on the darkest night, there is warmth rising through the ground. It seeps through mines. It curls from deep caves. It powers geysers and hot springs. It fuels geothermal dreams. We build turbines over steam. We draw electricity from ancient warmth. We tap into the pulse of the planet and make light from it. And yet, we barely understand it. Much of the Earth's heat budget remains a puzzle. How fast is it cooling? Where exactly does the heat come from? How long will it last? Our best guesses are still wrapped in models and margins, still shifting like the plates we seek to map. Some scientists believe we're halfway cooled, that the future holds a gradual dimming, the mantle thickening, the core solidifying, the fire going out. Others suggest that inner cooling may trigger surface ice, a snowball Earth, frozen from the inside out. But tonight, the heat still lingers. It curls beneath volcanoes. It surges under oceans. It stirs magma in chambers waiting to speak. And, more than anything, it holds memory. Because heat is history. It is the echo of collisions, the relic of decay, the footprint of time itself. Every rock that melts tells a story. Every plume that rises speaks of something old still reaching upward. So when you sleep, you are resting on a planet that is not at peace. Not in stillness, but in transformation. It is not a static sphere, but a body in the act of becoming. Becoming cooler, becoming older, but still becoming. In myth, fire is a gift. Prometheus stole it. Humans nurtured it. Civilization rose beside it. And below our feet, a fire still burns, unaided, untouched, waiting in silence. One day it may fade. The crust will thicken. The core will quiet. The surface will still. But not tonight. Tonight, the earth is still warm, still changing, still alive. And so, as your breathing slows, let yourself imagine that warmth. Not the warmth of sunlight, but the warmth of stone. The hidden fire. The forgotten heat. The glow of memory in the dark. It does not speak in sentences. It does not echo like the core. It does not fracture like the crust. The mantle whispers. Slowly, deeply, endlessly. A region vast beyond comprehension, spanning from the base of the crust to the outer edge of the core, over 2,800 kilometers thick. It is not liquid, yet not quite solid. It is slow stone, moving in currents that take tens of millions of years to complete a single cycle. To stand above the mantle is to stand above time itself. We used to believe it was still, inert, that Earth's layers sat stacked like pages. But now we know, the mantle flows. Like a great conveyor of heat, of pressure, of memory. Like a river of rock carving paths not in space, but in time. Convection is the breath of this world. Warm rock rising, cool rock falling. As though the earth were dreaming. These slow spirals of motion reshape continents, split oceans, raise mountains, and call volcanoes forth from silence. From this deep, viscous sea of mineral, tremors are born. Subduction zones drag surface rock downward, melting it, folding it, returning it to the places from which it once emerged. There, far below, old ocean floors dissolve. Ancient sediments are reincarnated in heat. Water, carried down by minerals, helps melt the rock, fuels eruptions, and reshapes entire landscapes above. In the mantle, water does not flow. It binds. It clings. It transforms. It is not just a place of heat, but a crucible of change. Peridotite becomes basalt. Pressure turns olivine into ringwoodite, a crystal that may hold vast oceans within itself, locked in lattice, waiting. And this is not metaphor. Scientists now believe there may be as much water in the mantle as in all the oceans combined. Not in pools, not in rivers, but in structure, in stone. The oceans above, the clouds in our skies, may be but the exhale of a deeper reservoir. We call this deep layer the transition zone, a place of shifts. Mineral, thermal, historical. We listen to it through seismology, tracking waves as they pass through and bend, as though we are eavesdropping on a conversation carried out in pressure and silence. And the waves do not lie. They tell of strange structures, hotspots where plumes rise from the deepest parts of the mantle to breach the surface in volcanic islands. Hawaii, Iceland, Yellowstone. These plumes, rising for tens of millions of years, are whispers that became flames. Memory that became geography. And then there are the slabs, subducted pieces of crust sinking, still visible in seismic scans like ghosts drifting downward over eons. Some reach the core mantle boundary. Others stall in the mantle's mid-depths, trapped like unfinished thoughts. The mantle is a memory keeper. It stores the past not in pages, but in flow. Each plume carries traces of early Earth material that has not seen the surface since before life began. Each tremor, each eruption, is a syllable in the language of pressure. And we are only beginning to read. Sometimes the mantle speaks through superplumes, colossal upwellings of heat and material that may have driven past mass extinctions, broken apart continents, and rewritten the surface of the world. These are not events we witness. They unfold over millions of years. But the signs remain, in basalt plateaus, in fossil records, in isotopic scars. The mantle does not forget. It folds the past into its currents, slowly carrying what was toward what will be. And in doing so, it shapes our future with hands we cannot see, in silence we rarely notice. But it is there, beneath our steps, a presence, ancient and moving. It is strange to imagine that the solid ground we walk on is not the whole story, but only the surface tension of a much deeper tide. So, as you lie in bed and your body slows, imagine the earth not as still, but as breathing beneath you. The mantle turning, carrying continents as if in a dream, lifting islands, swallowing oceans, speaking in heat. No pulse, but rhythm. No voice, but memory. The whispers of the mantle are not heard with ears, but with time. And as you fall into sleep, you drift into that time, slow, deep, cyclical. A place where all things are remembered, but none are rushed. Where silence speaks. Where stone dreams. There is a moment before eruption, a long, invisible breath drawn slowly over years. The ground rises by millimeters, the air warms just slightly, and deep below, something stirs. We think of volcanoes as violence. Ash clouds, lava rivers, explosions. But those are only the exhale. The inhale begins far deeper, in the mantle, where pressure and heat conspire to melt rock. Where whispers become flows. Where magma is born. This molten rock is not chaotic. It is purposeful. It rises slowly, drawn by buoyancy, finding paths through cracks, collecting in chambers hidden miles beneath the surface. There it waits, sometimes for centuries, sometimes for tens of thousands of years, building pressure, changing chemistry, listening. The earth is not reckless. Even its fire is patient. Volcanoes are not just ruptures, they are valves. They regulate the planet's internal pressure. They release what cannot remain contained. Without them, the crust would buckle. The heat would build unchecked. The planet might fracture from within. Instead, the earth breathes, through mountains that burn, through islands that rise from sea, through vents that light the polar night. There are many kinds of breath. Some volcanoes exhale in calm flows, basaltic rivers like those in Hawaii, where molten stone oozes down gentle slopes, a slow dance of fire and form. Others erupt violently, with pyroclastic fury, sending plumes high into the stratosphere, darkening skies, and reshaping entire landscapes. Mount Tambora, Krakatoa, Mount St. Helens, each an exhale heard across oceans. These are reminders, the earth is alive. Not metaphorically, geologically, thermally, viscerally. Volcanoes create more than they destroy. They birth islands. They fertilize soil. They shape atmospheres. In fact, without volcanic activity, life as we know it would not have evolved. It was likely volcanic heat that kept Earth warm during ancient freezes. It was volcanic outgassing that filled our sky with carbon, sulfur, water vapor, the first breath of atmosphere. Even today, they shape climate. A single eruption can cool the globe by fractions of a degree. A shield volcano can warm it, slowly, subtly, over centuries. But volcanoes are not just agents of physical change. They are keepers of stories. Within each eruption is a record of mantle composition, of tectonic motion, of time passed unseen. Each lava flow carries the fingerprint of its origin. Each ash layer settles as a page in the planet's diary. And beneath many volcanoes, there are systems still unmapped, chambers that may never erupt, plumes we cannot yet trace. Volcanoes speak in ways we struggle to understand. They rumble. They release gas, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, water vapor, and those gases are clues. Telltale signs of pressure rising, of change brewing. Monitoring them is not an exact science. It is a practice of patient listening, of interpreting tremors, measuring tilt, watching for warmth. And still, they surprise us, because they are not machines. They are thresholds, between below and above, between hidden and known, between silence and fire. There are even volcanoes under the sea, hidden from sight, yet vast and active. These submarine volcanoes create more new crust than all land-based volcanoes combined. They are quiet sculptors of the seafloor, building ridges and islands in darkness and pressure. Some of the newest land on Earth rises from such fires. Iceland, the Azores, the volcanic arcs of the Pacific Ring. And yet, for all their power, volcanoes are deeply vulnerable. They depend on a planet still warm, still churning. They are signatures of activity. One day, when Earth's core cools and the mantle ceases to convect, the volcanoes will fall silent. No more islands will rise. No more breath will lift the crust. The fire will go inward and then fade. But that time is distant. Tonight, somewhere in the world, a volcano is breathing. Not erupting, just rising slightly, sending a faint puff of gas into the sky, stirring magma in its sleep. As you lie still, know that the Earth is not. Beneath you, in chambers and plumes, in arcs and faults, the planet prepares to speak. And when it does, it is not in anger, but in rhythm. A volcano is not rage. It is release. It is relief. It is remembrance. The breath of the volcano is the planet remembering its heat, its origin, its pulse. A reminder that silence is often the space between breaths. The fire recedes. The roar fades. The sky begins to clear. And in the wake of destruction, the world holds its breath. There is a silence that follows eruption, not a silence of peace, but of awe, of reckoning, of beginnings hidden in endings. The lava cools, black and sharp. A crust forms where rivers once ran. What was molten becomes solid, immovable, a memory frozen in stone. Ash settles gently. It drapes the land like snow, gray and soft, light enough to float, heavy enough to bury. It coats branches, fills valleys, covers lakes. And then, slowly, the world waits. To the untrained eye, it might look like ruin, a lifeless expanse of soot and stone. But to the earth, this is renewal. Because from this silence, something begins. The minerals in the ash feed the soil. The cracks in the lava become shelter. Rain falls, and with it, seeds. Birds return. Insects. The first blades of grass push through cooled basalt. In Hawaii, they say the fern is always first, a small, spiraled green unfurling across black fields. Proof that the planet remembers how to begin again. The silence after fire is not empty. It is full of unseen motion. Fungi spread beneath the surface, decomposing the remnants, rebuilding the web of life. Microbes thrive in what seems barren, digesting minerals, laying the biochemical groundwork for entire ecosystems to return. And they do return. In time, trees grow from the ashes. Roots dig into the cracks. Mountains once molten become forests. Fields of ruin bloom with wildflowers. There are places on Earth where the only thing older than the mountain is the fire that created it. This cycle, eruption, silence, rebirth, has played out for billions of years. It is how continents formed, how islands rose, how life adapted to the planet's inner breath. The silence after fire is not forgetful. It carries the memory of heat. You can see it in the layers of the land. Volcanic rock beneath fertile soil, basalt cliffs where forests now stand, obsidian flakes found beside ancient tools. The earth remembers by layering time into its body. And we remember too. We build homes near volcanoes not just despite the danger, but because of what fire leaves behind. Rich soil, hot springs, stone strong enough to build with, a sense of connection to the planet's living heart. There is beauty in risk. There is wisdom in returning. Some cultures consider volcanoes sacred, not as destroyers, but as beings, embodied spirits of the land. Mount Fuji, Mauna Loa, Mount Etna, places where fire has become myth, and myth has become place. Because after fire, there is always story. Legends grow from lava flows. Songs are sung about the mountain's breath. Generations pass down warnings, rituals, gratitude. We do not only rebuild, we remember, and this memory shapes us. It teaches humility, that we are not the rulers of this world, but participants in its rhythms. When a volcano sleeps, we walk its slopes. We plan on its soil. We speak of it in the past tense. But it is not past. It is patient. The silence is not stillness. It is waiting. And yet, in this waiting, life thrives. The landscape once scorched becomes sanctuary. Rare species find homes in its solitude. Ecologies evolve in response to its extremity. Because where the fire once roared, life has space to grow, untouched by human hand, for a time. And so, the silence after fire is a sacred kind of quiet. It is the pause between chapters, the breath after a scream, the stillness from which music might rise. It is not final. It is formative. As you lie still now, and the world around you quiets, know that even in silence, the planet moves. Even when all seems calm, heat churns below. Life prepares to return. And somewhere, the first fern unfurls on blackened stone. Because the silence after fire is not death. It is the earth learning to begin again. Beneath everything, beneath the mountains, the oceans, the crust, the fire, there is a sphere of silence. A core of iron, hidden in darkness, untouched by sunlight for over 4 billion years. It does not beat like a heart, but it pulses. It does not breathe, but it moves. Solid metal under pressure so immense it refuses to melt. The inner core, encased in a shell of molten iron, the outer core flows like firewater, circulating, churning, moving heat, moving time. This is the source of Earth's magnetic field, a dynamo of liquid metal generating invisible lines that stretch from pole to pole, curling around the planet like unseen armor. Without it, the solar wind would strip away our atmosphere. The oceans would boil. Radiation would scorch the surface. Life as we know it would vanish. But the core waits. It spins. Not with the Earth, but at its own speed. A mystery still debated, still measured in tiny shifts and strange seismic echoes. There is no light there. No sound. Only motion. We cannot reach it. No drill can survive the journey. No camera can bear the weight. And yet, we know it is there. We feel it in the magnetic hum of compass needles. We trace it in the shock waves of distant quakes. We model it in equations that shimmer with heat and gravity. It is the deepest silence we know, but not the silence of stillness. It is the silence of intention, of long, slow memory. The core holds stories written in temperature and time. It remembers the collisions that birthed the planet. It holds the metals from stars long dead. Its iron was forged in the belly of supernovae, scattered across space, gathered into Earth's early fire. Now it rests at the planet's center, not lifeless, but waiting. Some believe the core is growing, slowly crystallizing from the inside out, a frozen heart expanding inside its molten cradle. Others wonder if it sings, that the Earth hums in frequencies too low for ears, vibrations born in the deep. And perhaps the core is not alone. Perhaps all planets with fire have hearts like this, ancient, unseen, waiting beneath the surface. On Mars, the core has gone quiet, no longer spinning, no longer generating fields. And the atmosphere is gone. The surface is bare. The silence is permanent. On Earth, the core still turns, still burns, still holds. And through it, the Earth listens. To the crust above, to the shifting of plates, to the weight of oceans, to the fall of meteors, to the tiny tremble of footsteps. It hears us, not in language, but in pressure, in heat, in motion. We are a surface ripple on its ancient stillness. And yet, we are part of it, born from its iron, protected by its field, guided by its quiet gravity. This is the final silence, the one beneath all others. Not because it is the end, but because it is the root. The core does not speak. It does not erupt. It does not fracture. It endures. And in doing so, it makes everything else possible. It is the silence that gives rise to voice, the stillness that holds motion, the watcher beneath all time. And so, as you sleep, remember this. The ground beneath you rests on plates which float on mantle, which churns with fire, which flows around a core that does not move for you, but moves with you. It is not waiting for something. It is the waiting. It is the presence beneath presence, the listener below all sound. And in its silence, you are safe. You are held. Because even as you dream, beneath your body, beneath the rock, beneath the flame, the core remains. It waits, not watching, not judging, just being. And that, too, is enough. Beneath the crust, there is no eye, no breath, no thought. And still, something listens. The Earth is not conscious, not in the way we are. It does not dream in words or love in symbols. But it remembers. It carries memory in the strata of its skin, in folds of stone, in scars of collision, in lines of magnetic reversal written across ocean floors. It hears, not in sound, but in movement, not in light, but in weight. The Earth listens through its shifting plates, its pulsing magma, its iron heart. Every quake, every eruption, every pressure change enters the body of the planet and becomes part of its shape. A quiet archive, always updating, always rewriting. Every tree root that digs into soil, every raindrop that carves a canyon, every footstep pressed into sand, recorded. Not with judgment, not with intention, but with presence. There are no lies in geology, no denials in stone, only layers. And within those layers, we find ourselves, our cities, our bones, our ancestors' fires. The chemicals of our breath returning to sediment and air. We do not just live on Earth. We live within it. Its minerals course through our blood. Its magnetic field shapes our cells. Its gravity holds our every gesture. And so, perhaps we are not separate from this listening. Perhaps we are part of it. A voice in a conversation that began before language. A ripple in a story that spans eons. And yet, in our hurried lives, we forget. We build cities over faults. We carve mountains. We bury our waste and imagine it disappears. But the earth forgets nothing. It keeps what we leave behind. The plastic in the ocean, the carbon in the air, the ruins of empires swallowed by sand. All of it folded into the story. The planet listens, not to punish, not to correct, but simply because it is. Because it has always been. Even before life, it turned. Even before oceans, it burned. Even before breath, it held silence. And in that silence, it waited. Waited for cells to form, for eyes to open, for voices to rise. For you. And now, as your body rests on this surface, as your chest lifts gently with breath, as your mind begins to drift, the earth is there. Beneath you, around you, within you. It holds the heat that warms your days, the minerals that form your bones, the silence that cradles your sleep. It does not need to speak. It does not need to know. It is the knowing, the hum beneath noise, the stillness beneath movement, the listening beneath thought. And so, as you slip into dreams, remember, you are part of a planet that listens. Not with ears, but with time. You are held by stone and fire, by wind and field, by pressure and motion and a memory older than stars. You are not alone. Even in silence, the planet hears you. Even in sleep, it remembers you. And beneath the crust, beneath the heat, beneath all that you fear and all that you love, something is listening. Still, quiet, forever.